Hello, everybody. Part 17. No, I don't know what part this is, but let's continue on with this thing. I almost had forgotten to do it because of life, right? And I know one of the things that I've been really struggling with lately is making sure I continue on. Like the last 2 days, I missed my workout, and that's not acceptable. So I'm trying to kick it back into gear, trying to do the things that I'm supposed to do, and I said that I would do, because that's probably the biggest thing, is doing what I say I will do, even to myself. Or especially to myself, I should say. If there's one thing that I've learned in social media, because social media is full of garbage, just everything you want to hear, and they say that your body and your mind really focus on the things that you want to believe versus just truths, which I don't know if I believe that or not, because I've had my mind changed by words, sentences, actions, examples. Now, like even when we're talking about mentors, they reshaped my life on something that I thought was right, that I was going along great with, and they said something. So this whole bias garbage, in my opinion, kind of like the ADHD thing, and every other thing we try to claim some sort of title, or whatever you'd call it, like a disease or label on every one of our traits to try to justify it for some reason. Let's say that it is even true, is like, well, okay, now you've identified it, so fix it or deal with it, or don't worry about it, and overcome. I'm not trying to make light of things that are real. What I'm referring to are the things that people tend to jump on the gravy trains with, or what do you call it? Is it gravy trains, or I can't remember the words, but basically everybody's doing it, so you jump on board, because it sounds good. And so that's a thing in itself. That's something that's changed your mind. So the fact that we can't have our mind changed by words and things like that is absolute garbage. It's just garbage. I mean, if you sit there and think about it, it's ridiculousness. I mean, 6 million Jews killed because of someone's mindset, and everyone followed along. They weren't killing Jews randomly because of that, or putting them in chambers. It is one of the things that I think is the weakness of our society as a whole. And granted, I'm speaking out the side of my butt, because it's just my opinion. All of this is my opinion, and you guys know that. But I would say, man, there are things that I've overcome that I shouldn't have overcome, according to the world. So you can too. That's what I know. And people who just like fall into the collapse of, oh, calamity, despair, doom, agony on me, deep down depression, obsessive history, or whatever that song is. Man, grow up hair, right? Well, that's what I feel like I should say. Anyway, so I'll stop on that. But really, though, if you're having problems, especially the people that are watching this, why are you not talking to me, or your mother, or your brothers and sisters? I mean, that would be my biggest failing in life, is if you try to do something on your own when you have resources available to you. That's a big one for me. And okay, I'm going to go off on a tangent, because that's what I do as the dad. One of my dreams, and one of the things that I struggle with, is knowing what I want to be when I grow up. And here I am, almost all grown up, to the point of, death, essentially. But my dream has always been, and I think I've touched on this in another one, but a community of all my family living on the same 40 acres or something, with communities. I know I've talked about this part though, with community pool, and that we'd all have access to, and that not a form of socialism, because you all got to take care of yourselves, but at the same time, the togetherness of it is the thing that I like. Like, I hate Christian being in Dallas. I hate Laura being in stinking Fayetteville. And then obviously Lainey out in the sticks out there. I know you all are living your best lives and everything like that, but I'm being selfish here. I'm talking about me. Like, my preference would be that we would all live in the same area, because you can, even in the same area, you can be as alone as you want to be with everybody here. And to say, oh, there's no opportunity, or there's, maybe so. I'm not trying to coax anyone into anything, but I'm just saying what I like. And I'd like that. Nathan being off into Germany, I mean, he's got a reason to be, being in the military and all. But like, I even think of Megan living right in town, and the amount that she wants to be seen is the amount that she's seen. And, I feel like, we can call her and go over and see the kids or whatever we want to do, and she's real gracious with that. But for the most part, like, even when I was growing up let me use this as an example. I lived in Texas, kind of near my family the whole time that we were there, when we were married and everything. And my mom would come over, and she'd always bring like a little bag of something, like some diapers or some wipes, or, man, she used to bring those muffins. She would get them from Sam's, and the big muffin top muffins that like this, and when people call people muffin tops because they hang over their waistline there. I mean, these, you can go to Sam's now, they don't have the same thing. They have big muffins. But my mom, they used to have big muffins, like these chocolate muffins with chocolate chips in them. They were like this big, and they were over the top. Oh, those were so good. She'd bring those or something. My mom was a real gift giver, not in the sense of like, here's a new, she did get me a car, but in the sense of being helpful. You know what I mean? Like, they could probably use this. They could probably, they probably need more diapers, because you always need more diapers as you have babies. Just the thoughtfulness there. But we lived close enough that they weren't there all the time. I wasn't at their house all the time. And we had our issues, and we dealt with them and kind of resolved them. I remember when Megan, speaking of issues, I could just share a story with y'all. When Megan was a baby, brand new baby, I was over at my mom's and dad's house, and they started smoking in the house when the baby was there. And I was like, no. And I got up and I said, no, we're going to go. We don't want any, her sucking in all the smoke and stuff like that. And my mom was like, oh, we'll smoke outside. We'll smoke out. And my dad was like, oh, we're going to smoke wherever we want to smoke. And he's like in there. And I said, okay, bye. And apparently they had a meeting when we were gone. Because after that, and my dad and I haven't always gotten along very good. I mean, we're cordial to each other or whatever, but there's no lovey-love there. I mean, so my mom called and she says, come on over. We smoke outside now. And they did. And they did that for years. After we moved to Arkansas, even. And let's see, Christian was born in Arkansas, so that was really only 3 or 4 years of them having the babies close by. And they learned to smoke outside. And then from that point forward until, I guess they both, mom was getting pretty sick and dad was like not under her thumb anymore, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, they would smoke outside. They'd go out, sit out in the backyard. Mom would swat flies with her fly swatter on the ground and smoke a cigarette or whatever. Dad would be out there and they just sit on their back porch and smoke. So when you want to talk about change and the ability to change your mind and the desire of your heart, is my mom loved my kids. And I think it's sad that my younger kids didn't, and maybe my older kids don't remember a lot of it, but how my mom was always just literally about them. Always laughing, being where they are, you know. When she came over, she made food mainly for them and just like smiled, laughed, looked from afar, watched, you know, watched them. There was, you guys don't remember Abu Ba, but she would Abu Ba most of you guys. That means there was some thing where they'd get a blanket and they would put you on their back and they'd wrap this blanket around you so you'd be on their back like this, and they would hunch over like this, walk around, and then that blanket would be on the front so they could use both hands somehow and pat you on the butt like this, like that, as you're piggybacking. You'd be screaming and crying. They would do that and you'd be asleep in like 3 minutes. And they would go, Abu Ba, Abu Ba. And they would just like chant this little thing as they bounced around with you on their back. And Megan, oh my gosh, she cried so much because we and I think that's one of the things about being a parent, especially of your first child, is the intensity of parenting. the unknown stuff, like you just don't know, and everything you want to do for the best for that kid. And it's like, I think that, you know, like animals can sense when something's a tense moment or they can get frightened or whatever. I think there's some psychological transference there where the baby senses the tenseness and just gets heightened awareness and easily upset, just like the parents are of heightened awareness and easily upset. Because Megan, we called it colicky. She was a colicky baby back then. That's what we called it, and gave her colic medicine. I don't remember that ever working. She would just scream and cry every time when it was about to be bedtime, I think. And my mom could come over and Abu Ba. She did it to Megan, Lainey, Christian, Laura, Joshua, Jesse, Nathan, Mallory. Well, and Zeke, she did. I don't remember Abu Ba and Zeke because when Zeke was little like that, we moved to Colorado, so she wasn't there. Plus, they went on their road trip around the country in their RV. So Mallory was, maybe they did it a few times with her or something, you know, but it was not as prevalent. And they were living in Texas and we were in Arkansas, and they would come up and still get to Abu Ba, a lot of the babies. But anyhow, minds can get changed. My dad changed his mind basically by the frustration of my mother. She's like, yeah. What are you talking about? Because my dad and I kind of got into it and we left when they didn't just decided he was going to smoke wherever he wanted to smoke. But, and I appreciate that actually. You know, I mean, one of the things that I handled that so poorly, you know, in my typical fashion, just frustration and the first thing that pops in my head, we're going to go, you know, and I think that's the Taggart way. And then my mom, like, not having it. Like, all they want is us to not smoke around the kids. Done. She wants to be there. She wanted to be part of it. I think a mystic is the same way. You know, talk about she's an amazing story. Amazing part of our life. Just a wonderful lady. Yeah. Mystic is great. That's all I have to say on that. Anyhow, the idea today was to talk a little bit about How I Met Your Mother. Like, I think they make movies and books about that and have a lot of memes and things like that. But mine could have been a meme on How I Met Your Mom. And I think everybody knows the story, but here it is to be saved on eternal social media for whomever, whenever. But I was going to the University of Texas at Arlington, and I was taking night classes because I was trying to work, to have money to buy things. In any case, I was going to night class, and I had a political science class, which makes zero sense because there's nothing scientific about politics. Well, anyway, that's a whole different, and that's like manipulation science. But anyhow, it was a political science class, and it was a required course. Not interested in it at all. I'm walking to the door, and as my mentors, talked to me and told me, is like, you turn around, see if you need to hold the door for somebody. And I turned around, and I saw your mom, and I was like, hey, I like her. She looks good. And maybe other not so thoughts that I should say out loud because you guys get grossed out. But yeah, she was really cute. And she walked in. I think I said hi or something like that too, but maybe not. But I looked at her, and I think she saw me. And then I went to go sit down. I just like, okay, well, that's about the extent of what I'm going to do to pursue a woman, because it was like this comic called Bloom County had the best example ever on how, like, Kevin and I, he's the one that showed it to me, but how we would act when women were around. And it was like, ooh, this is the cartoon. And to be like, but it was like a pencil cartoon, it was a drawings, and it just had words. Those kind of comic, I guess I should say. And it was like these two guys, hey, we're two happening guys at the bar. And then go, yeah, look at the ladies. We're here. We're real ladies, men. Oh, here comes one now. Like that. And then had a lady walking by in the back. And they're like, oh, there's another one. That was like it exactly. Because Kevin and I just did not have the words. In any case. So that was it for me. I was like, oh, yeah, thoughts in my head. Yeah, I can see myself, dating that girl. And then the end, and I was looking for my seat. And I sat down, and fortunately, she sat right in front of me. And so I saw the back of her head. It was kind of like this. It was like, whoop, except imagine blonde hair hanging down. And then she did this. This is hilarious. She was like, and she looked at me right in the eyes for what seemed like 8 minutes, but it must have been like 20 seconds, maybe not even 20 seconds, but long enough. She just looked at me like she was like, I was like, I was frozen. And then she turned back around. And that's how we met. And that's one thing led to another. We started writing notes in class, and I think even the instructor was like, it was obvious. We were talking back and forth and stuff, and I can't imagine the people who were there taking it seriously, seeing us like, oh my gosh, these kids over here. But anyways, we went out a few times and everything, and that's about the same time where I got hit on by a gay guy that I didn't realize was gay. And because we started off as friends and did a lot of things together, went a few places, out to eat and hang around, talking, that kind of stuff. And one day I was in the car with him. His name was Ron, and I was like, "Hey, there's Sandy," and we saw her. I said, "Let's pick her up." So I saw the look on his face, like, why would we do that like that? So we picked her up, and I think she sat in my lap in his car on the way. I think we took her to her car or something. Can't remember what the deal was, but I remember that seeing his face, like, why would you be upset about us picking up this girl? Then after that, he asked me to come to his house for dinner. And he goes, "Hey, have you ever had pan spaghetti or some spaghetti? You cook it in like a skillet spaghetti." I was like, "No." He goes, "Yeah, come on over. We'll have some skillet spaghetti." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I didn't think anything of it. Now I'm naive. I've been naive my whole life. And we got there, and the table was set like real nice. Had glasses out. The table, like plate here, plate there. I was like, "Bro, what's going on? This is nice," like that. And then we sat across from each other. It was so weird. And we just ate dinner, and then after that, I said, "Hey man, I got to get," or whatever, and I left. And that was the last I've ever heard from him. And I think he was like seeing if there was a chance or something. But anyway, so your mom and I just dated a few more times, went various places, and one of the cool, fun things was we went on a double date with Kevin, and mom's best friend at the time was named Sandy Martino, and she was, I guess, mom's friend for the last few years or something like that. I don't remember how long. It doesn't matter how long they were friends, but they were good friends, and we took them to Bennigan's on this double date, and I'm talking to your mom, and he's talking to Sandy and stuff like that, and they're doing these things like that, like they're giving each other signals and signs, and we're picking up on it. We know and we ordered something. They didn't want to order anything, and so Kevin and I ate, and we acted our usual full selves and stuff like that. Then we went to Sandy's, your mom's house. They had a house in Irving, and so we went there, and your mom and Sandy started trouncing these donuts that they had. They're like, "Oh, like, why didn't you eat when we were, all..." Anyways, it didn't matter. But that's the night I first kissed your mom. I know, gross, but anyhow, it was a fun time. And then a few months later, we got married. It was no more than 6 or 7 months from the time we met to the time we were married. And I know your mom has regretted it since. Maybe not every day, but a lot of times, because I'm a lot to deal with. Hey, do I need to leave? Yeah, let me hit you up in a minute. And then that was Zeke. And then what was I saying? Oh, yeah, so I met your mom. She wasn't the smartest person in the world marrying me, but I'm glad she did. So our wedding day. Okay, so let's go over that, because that's kind of funny too. And your mom asked me to marry her, and it's the truth. But it was maybe not 100% serious, but it was an idea planting. It was a planting idea into my head, right? So we went to the Anatole, which was kind of a fancy restaurant, the only one I knew about because, again, my naivety. We went to, it's like the top floor at this hotel, and they came around, and we had millionaire's pie or something for dessert. But anyways, that's where I asked her officially to marry me. I got her this cheesy, cheap ring. And then my mom, of all things, bought her a real ring. It was kind of crazy. Not the one she's wearing now, but she still has it. But we went and looked at it, and I used my mom's credit card or something like that because it was at Zales, and she had a Zales card, and I was like, "Oh yeah." And then my mom says, "I got it," and wow, really? Again, more than I deserved. But we we were signed up. We were getting married. Told my parents. She told her parents. Within a month, we were going to get married in, gosh, what was it? I can't even remember now what our real date was. But your mom is a pretty driven person, and she was like, okay, I'm going to get this. She got this lined up. She got her dress. I was like, oh, this is great. She got that. She, all the things. And she got one day, she picked out the invitations. And she goes, hey, I got the invitations. I was like, great. About that, And she's like, looks at me. She's like, you don't want to get married, do you? I was like, what? Of course I do. I just don't get excited about that kind of stuff. She goes, you don't want to get married. And I think I said something, and she started crying or having a lot of doubt. And I was like, it ended up being like, we'll go get married right now. I don't care. I'm just not excited about that stuff. She goes, okay. I was like, okay, what? She goes, let's go get married right now. And she called me on it. And I was like, okay. So we drove down to the courthouse. And I'm like, we want to get married. She goes, oh, well, you need a 72-hour, something, and you need blood tests. And there were several things we had to do, so we couldn't get married right then. But 72 hours later, we showed back up at the Irving Courthouse. We walked into the judge's room, and it was nothing like either of us had in mind. We walked into this guy's messy office. She thought there was going to be, and I thought too, to be honest, to be fair, that there's going to be one of those big things. He's going to be sitting up there like a judge, that kind of thing. But we walked in there. He had a messy desk. He sat at his desk, and we sat in the chair across from him. And Sandy was like, "Is this it? Is this it?" And the guy took it as, "Well, you're not wanting to get married? You shouldn't get married if you don't want to get married." And she was like, yeah. And she was, and I could tell she was like super disappointed in the venue, which I get it. But we ended up getting married right then, and nobody knew. It was her and I, and we went to her aunt and uncle's house in Houston after we got married and spent the weekend there with their aunt and uncle. And I don't remember us even telling them. We didn't tell anybody. We came back. I went to my mom's and dad's house to live. She went to her mom's and dad's house to live. But I took off my ring. I never do, but my finger was swollen and I couldn't get it off, so I freaked out and took it off. But anyways, I was wearing my ring. And my dad, being a sharp sucker, he's like, "Why are you wearing your ring?" And he goes, I go, "Oh, just wearing it." And he goes, "You got married, didn't you?" He's perceptive old bugger. And my mom was like, "What?" And I was like, yeah, we got married. And he's like, what are you gonna do? What are you thinking? And my mom took over. She's like, "Are you married? You already got married?" She was like, not fuming mad, but she was upset. She was, "Well," and like looking around, she goes, "You go get your wife. You go get her right now." Like that. And I'm like, "What? We don't have a place yet, and we haven't gotten that far." And she goes, "You bring her here. You go get her. You bring her." I'm like, and of course, I'm still listening to my mom and dad. I'm living in their house. So I was like, well, I'll walk over to the phone because there were no cell phones, at least not prevalent. They were in beta then. But I went over there, dialed the number. I said, "Hey, Sandy, guess what? My mom and dad figured out we were married." She's like, "Oh, and I'm supposed to come and get you and bring you here." She's like, "What?" So I can't remember how that conversation went because I was kind of blacked out at that point, just not, way confused and bewildered and trying to decide where we're going to go, what I'm going to do, how we're going to do this. Obviously did not put a lot of thought into it. just two dumb kids making a dumb decision. So we went there, and Sandy's crying, and she's in the back packing her stuff, packing things, and getting ready to come with me. And all I heard was her dad say, "You want me to make him leave? You want me to make him leave?" I'm like, "Oh, great." Because one of the first things that Bill told me was that he had a closet back there with like 30 guns in it. So I knew he could make me leave. But, I was like, oh boy, this is the most uncomfortable thing ever. Even more uncomfortable when I asked Bill if I could marry his daughter, which I did, which was awkward, but I feel appropriate. But, make him leave. She says, no. And so she got her bag. We piled in my car with basically just an overnight bag and her toothbrush and clothes and stuff like that. Threw it in my car. I drove to the house. I had a single bed, a twin bed. The first couple of nights we stayed in that, and we're like, we're finding an apartment. This is not working. So we found an apartment pretty quick after that, and so that's the kind of the story. And then we were having kind of like a hard time, not to be surprised. We were married about 3 years, and it was still me being a kid and not very smart. I'm not saying I'm smart now, but I think I'm a little worldly wiser now. But Sandy was feeling the same way, and it was not looking good for the marriage for the most part. We were there together, but not. And then she said she was pregnant, and that changed my world. My heart was just like, ugh. And that's what I mean when I was saying, you don't know what love is, really. I don't think, as just a couple. I get you can feel a lot about the person and care for them deeply, no doubt about it. But when you have a kid, you understand more what sacrifice is, what caring about someone more than you care about yourself. Because you could say that you do with your wife, but she's self-sufficient. For the most part, every person's self-sufficient. They don't need you, But that baby needs you. And it instills quite the different mindset. So maybe it's not love that I'm thinking of. Maybe it's giving, it's got to be love. It's love. But we found out we were pregnant with Megan. And that was amazing. I remember after she was born, well, I could go into that too. It's like when Megan was being born, literally, and I'm in there, Megan, you say you're a starter at everything all the time. Well, I was a starter at seeing babies being born, so I'm laying there. My wife's got her legs out like this, and doctors like this, and Mom had an epidural, lots of pills, so she's like pushing, like that, and then he's like, baby's not coming. Get some scissors. I'll never forget this. Black handled scissors like you use every day. And it makes that noise, and your mom goes, "Oh, I know that would have hurt." She didn't feel a thing. That's the first time, and I don't think it's happened since, but where my knees got weak and I started seeing the little thing. I was like, oh, that sound, and knowing what the action was. I didn't look. I think if I'd have looked, I probably would have gone down. But the episiotomy was just, a lot for me. And your mom was like, "Ooh, I know that would have hurt." Megan came out without a hitch, and I bawled, and she was like so perfect. showed her off to everybody. I remember I took her to the football when I told you we play football all the time. I took her out there with me one time, met all the guys, and one of my friends, Chris Poindexter, was like, "Can I hold her?" And I was like, "Wow, that's a weird thing to have one of my friends." I would never think that my friends, but Chris had a kid at the time, and he kind of understood everything, and he's the only one that asked to hold her. And I was like, "Yeah," and he's and he like grabbed her, and he was just like, yeah. And I wasn't really a good friend to Chris for the most part. I'm sorry, Chris, if you ever stumbled upon these. But he was, yeah, he understood some things that I didn't at the time, especially with the kids stuff. But anyway, so that was actually what taught me about love, I think. Because I think I'm pretty much a psychopath outside of that. Don't really feel much for a lot of people. I'm not sympathetic, empathetic for the most part. Except for my kids, my wife. Let's see. Kind of going over this little list thing. Talks about how I met my wife, our wedding day, the hardest year of our marriage was the year that we found out Megan was going to be born, and then it changed dramatically. And what I've actually learned about love, our best trip together, I don't know. That's a dumb one. Fighting fair, though, is something kind of interesting. Because I fought to win for so long, and I'm apparently a halfway decent debater. I didn't know at the time, but the way that I grew up and how smart alecky everybody was and that kind of thing, I grew up to be, kind of a... Well, the thing that I think helped me most is my memory retention and the things that I could remember that was said or that were done. And so I could easily win a fight with your mom if it came down to just arguing, because I argue with my mouth and my mind and my volume, where your mom argues with her heart. Yeah, that's pretty much it. She argues with her heart. I've taught her over the years to kind of be a little more mean in the fighting area when we get in an argument, but that's a bad thing. But for the most part, what I've learned about the arguing stuff is that nobody wins when one person wins, right? I think everybody knew that. But I would say that marriage isn't 50-50, it's 100%, 100%. You don't expect anything from the other person, but you give your all. The end. The end. That's it. And it's a decision, and you do it every day, regardless. And some days, I fail at it, no doubt. Your mom fails at it. But for the most part, when we get over whatever it is, whether it's through talking or just time or revelation or the Holy Spirit or whatever the thing that brings us around, fall back to 100% giving of yourself to the other person. I still think I withhold sometimes. I want it to be 100%, but anyways, it's advice. It's advice for me as well. And as we grow old together,
Hey.
I'm so thankful. I feel bad for your mom that she's stuck with me. And I know you get what I'm saying. But I'm thankful. I could not have ended up with anything better. And I feel like, and just for you boys out there maybe that are watching this, my sons that aren't married, your mom is the first person I ever had sex with. And I'm so thankful for that. She's I would say the first person, the only person I've ever had sex with. She's, yeah, she's amazing. And I'm not talking about that stuff. I'm talking about as a person. And I think you know, and wherever we go and whatever we do and whatever she says and whatever she tries, she shines, you know. I took her. Yesterday, she was so sweet. She came with Bennett. They brought me an apple pie. Made my day. I mean, it was like another day sitting there at work going, oh, you know, but I saw Bennett walk around the corner in my office like, whoa. And then Sandy was there, which was even whoa, because I don't think maybe she's never been there before, maybe once. But walked in and brought me an apple pie. And so I introduced her to everybody. And then as she left, I walked them out. And then as I walked back in, the lady at the front desk, like, she's so beautiful. She could be a model. And she's blah, you know, and I agree. But the thing that they see is that what's on the inside pouring out. Because that adage about when you take a glass and you fill it up to the top and then you shake it, things that come out are what's on the inside, right? So when you're shaken as an individual, how things come out when things get rough or, you know, get upset or whatever, the things that come out, that's what's inside. And I'm not full of the good stuff inside. I've got some vitriol. I never liked that word, but I've got some meanness, snakiness in there, you know, vengeful. Like I told the story about pushing that dude, you know, I mean, I remember we were playing a soccer game and this smart aleck Russian guy, I saw him try to undercut Christian and I just lost it. And so he came over at me at one point and I bumped into him, blocked him to shield the ball, but more concerned about bumping him than shielding the ball. And so as I was running off, he tripped me. You know, he kicked his foot out and tripped me. And so I did what I do. I bowed up to him and we were both bowing up to each other and everybody's like, hey. And then Christian said something after. It was like, yeah, you don't need to act like him or something like that. You don't need to act like that. And I was like, my younger son, my oldest son telling his pops, you know, Dad, don't be like that. And he was right. And so I, ever since then too, been trying to do better with that, but I succumb to it more than I should ever. But yeah, that's a little bit inside me. I want it to be gone, but I'm gonna tell you, your mom has very, very little of that. She is full of grace, full of mercy. I just, you know, okay, this is the last story. I know this is long. The last story. Except one time we were at the mall. We were driving, and I did drive a little fast through the mall parking lot because I saw a spot opening up at the front. So I'm like, you know, I kind of went a little faster, but I wasn't like excessive speeding. It wasn't like 40 through the parking lot. Well, these people had a little kid that was with them, and then the dad, anyways, they followed us there to yell at us. And the guy and I were getting blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, blah, 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 you know, that kind of thing. And then your mom piped in. It's like, well, I hope when I have a kid, I don't let him run around the parking lot. You know, I'll keep him safe or whatever. And then he turned to her, and that pissed me off even worse. So, yeah, that one almost came to blows. That was pretty rugged. But your mom was right there, chirping back. Not necessarily saying what we did was right, but saying, hey, you could have done better yourself, buddy. You know, that kind of thing. But anyways, that was it. You know, your mom, an amazing person, love her. Just, you should love her. You know she loves you. You should act like you love her. You should show her you love her. You should do all the things because, you know, she's your mom. She deserves to be loved like that. And she is worthy of that love. Not like Jesus is. I'm not saying anything like worshiping her or something like that. But she is genuine, folks. So I'm pretty lucky, and I'm glad I get to grow old with her. So hopefully I don't screw it up before we're too old, or she discovers that she could do much better. So anyways, I'll stop there. Love you all. Overcome. Refill the stuff inside with good stuff so that when you're shaking, good stuff comes out, not bad stuff like your old man. Yeah, that's it. Love you all. This is the dad. Have a good day. Bye.